Are we there?
We are now streaming. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Now That's Debatable. I am back. I know I said 2 weeks ago that was probably going to be my last stream, but we'll see. We'll see if we continue the show. But we got Liam back on, and
How's
one cool thing is that Liam is actually from South Africa, and so I know a lot of your may or may not have heard some of the statements that came from out of the White House regarding South Africa. But I know Liam, he wanted to speak on that matter since he has first person experience with that country and its policies.
Yeah, man.
So
Cool.
I'll just let you take over the floor.
Cool, man. I'd see this is just it's a different. I see it's a bit of a different platform this time since the last time, hey.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Okay, man. Yeah. So as I mentioned in a message I sent you months ago now, and again, I think obviously, I would imagine that this whole thing has kind of died down from the news cycle. But I remember a few months ago there were some South African refugees that had come out there, and look, I mean, I'm the first to admit there are issues with the country, there are problems, but I love this country, and I don't think lies and false information or misinformation is going to help solve the problem. So first up, I guess I could just say straight up, there's no white genocide happening here. In that, if we just look at the numbers, I'm sure you've heard about the farm murders and so forth, and I was just looking at the figures, and I mean, this goes all the way back to the first time we had a bit of that furore was a few years ago when, again, it flared up, and I guess it might be coming up again at some point in time. But right now, we've got about 4 to 4.5 million whites are living in this country. And from what I can tell, in the worst, like, the worst figures that I could find when it came to farm murders and maybe just whites in general was that maybe it was 300 whites killed or maybe 300 murders when it came to farm murders. Okay. And by the way, my dad was a victim of farm murders back in 2009 because he was working on a friend's farm. So it's not as if I, have got no skin in the game on this one, but at most, there are like 300 farm murders out of 4.5 million people. I'm just quickly doing the sum here. Let's assume that that's incorrect and they've downplayed it. And so it's actually like 600. Let's assume that there were 600 whites killed for being white, in this, let me see. I mean, no, this isn't doing what I wanted to do. Don't you love it? Sorry, man, this was so much better in my mind, and now I'm like flubbing it.
All
4
good.
million. Yeah. Oh, no, man. So I just want to work out what is 600 out of 4 million divided by 4 million.
Small number.
Yeah. I'm talking. I mean, as a percentage, it's 0.000015%. And I don't understand how anyone could say, based on like a 0.0015% that there's this genocide happening. The fact is, I'm not saying that no one has ever been attacked because they're white in this country. I'm not saying that no one has ever been murdered because they're white in this country. But it's not happening on a scale where white people are afraid to live here. You know what I mean? It's for us, it's a Saturday morning. I can tell you now, last night, Friday evening, there were white people going to restaurants, they were going to movies, they were, like out here in the suburbs, they were like living their life. And I know that this is a ridiculous defense on another way, is that our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, actually met with Trump at the White House to talk about these white, this white genocide. And okay, this whole thing is just insane. But his defense was there's no white genocide. Everyone is being killed, you know what I mean, regardless of race. And that is it's a despicable defense, but it's true. Like, white people are not being targeted. You actually find that it is black people, Indian people, colored people, and I don't know if you're aware, Triple A, is just that we actually have a demographic of mixed race people and descendants of mixed race called colored people. So they are not necessarily that your mom and dad were different races, white and black, but if you were a descendant of a mixed couple, there's actually a whole demographic with them, like kind of its own culture, and all of these things, and colored people outnumber us now, as statistically in the country, which is weird because like they were quite a small minority. So I know it's disgusting that that's the defense, and yet it's even maybe more terrible that it's true. Is that it's not that white people are being targeted from hate crimes. It's like everyone is living in fear of the criminal element out here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's terrible. And I mean, we are like one of them. I mean, our murder numbers and all of that stuff are up there with war zones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But most people, I'm not afraid of like someone knocking down the door because I'm white now to come and try and murder my family. It's I'm just saying it's like it's misinformation. The numbers just don't add up. And then the other sad thing is we have the largest color concentration. I don't know if you know this as well. Indian people have been we have the largest population of Indian people outside of India itself. And I heard this from Russell Peters, who's a Canadian Indian comedian. But I mean, he pointed out that Indians have been in South Africa longer than white people have been in Canada. So, also like a large demographic of our, even though they're still coming in at about, I think, 7%. No, we're at about 7% now. And it's about, I don't know, 4 or 5% of like Asian, persuasion and everything. But the scary thing is more people, more colored kids are killed in the Cape Flats thanks to gun violence in a matter of months than white people are murdered throughout the entire country in a year.
Oh, wow.
And where's the outrage about that? And that's where it maybe becomes that, I don't know, I think we have, these, there are organizations. Look, you'll find that Afrikaans people, like Afrikaners, are very proud of their heritage and all of this stuff. But I think some of the guys that just happen to have caught hold of the international imagination to come and say that we're being hunted and we're being killed like flies. When, again, I'm not saying that white people are not victims of crime and white people are not murdered. But if you look at the scale of which it's happening, there's no white genocide happening here. If that makes sense, So,
gotcha. I appreciate it. I appreciate that, man. And so, guys, so like I said, Liam, he's from South Africa himself. So,
final comment I'm also going to make is when it comes to farm murders, what a lot of people, including South Africans, seem to overlook is that even if it is still more white victims, a large, quite a sizable minority of victims of farm murders are the black laborers on the farms. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not as if it's just, the only white people when you come to a farm. You actually find a lot of black laborers. And I mean, they're also victims of this crime. So I just feel as if it's like it's a twisted narrative that isn't going to help solve the actual problems here. You know what I mean? So just thought, just to weigh in on that. So I think the message I sent you was a lot more eloquent than what I put together now.
All good.
But
well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for the chance to comment on it.
Yeah, man. And now I'd like to get into I guess our topic, Christian morality. So first, I just like for you to define morality, because I think the first time we had you on, we did. I let you interrogate me about my moral system. So I'd like to just return the favor. So first,
I was actually going to let me do that, obviously, but then I was also going to ask if you could just bring a bit of clarity, because I still don't know if I quite understood your one. But yes, okay. So you asked the question.
Yeah, if you could define morality as you understand it, like for instance, what makes something wrong?
What makes something wrong? Well, look, morality in sure. morality would obviously be what we should and shouldn't do when it comes to questions of good and evil.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I would obviously say that what makes something wrong is there is a standard. I think it comes from the very nature of God. And obviously, like that which is good, because God is good. There are things like God wouldn't lie, God wouldn't murder. I know
So
you're going to take me.
murder is wrong because
In the
God
nature of
wouldn't.
God, he wouldn't murder. However,
Lying's wrong
yeah,
because God wouldn't lie. Right?
yeah. I mean, I do think that's what it boils down to, and I think that's I do think that's how the
Okay.
universe has been created.
So
And
that's
now we obviously have to
that.
get into, but now what constitutes murder and
Well, we
all
don't
of
have to
those
go there.
things.
Like, just let's talk about just something that's
Yeah.
definitely wrong,
Mm,
right? I don't. I mean, whatever. Like X. Like, let's say just there's
mm,
something that
mm,
we
mm,
would definitely agree that's wrong. Okay,
mm,
so I guess so. If you do an act that goes contrary to God's actual God's nature,
mm.
or what God would do, well, how would you say it? An act that goes contrary to what God's what?
Yeah.
God's
Like
nature.
God's nature. Yeah.
Okay, so act that goes contrary to God's nature is wrong. Okay, so if I do that act, I've done something immoral.
Yes. Well, I guess if we have to put it in terms of good and evil, that which is good aligns with God's nature. That which is evil is in opposition to His nature.
Gotcha. So when we say that something's good, we say that it aligns with His nature. If we say that
Yeah. I
something's
mean, again,
bad,
that's how we would ultimately. I mean, I know that there are other ways. Sure, man. I should have actually found this out. I know that there was the one the one philosopher coming, obviously trying to define morality without reference to God. I don't know if it was Hume or it wasn't. I see, man. I should have. I
I don't
actually
know.
was discussing it
There's a
with.
bunch of
Yeah,
philosophers that do it.
but
I,
I'm
I
just
do
saying. I
it
know that.
myself.
Yeah, I know that the one guy. And again, I should have. I mean, I knew his name like a few days ago. It's just gone out of my mind.
It's
I'm
fine.
losing more. I'm losing more and more words
So
and names and details. But he just like I know that he defined it, saying it this way was that which you have to behave in a way that would you could tell everyone everywhere to behave
okay,
in that way. But
that now
I mean that's
God's
neither
no
here nor
longer
there.
this. No, God's no longer
Yeah.
the standard. If we're gonna use that.
What I guess what I know. I'm just saying. So that was the way he came at it, and then strange enough, it still kind of lines up with some of like you might land on a lot of the same things there. But I do think that anyway, I still think
Essentially
that God
God's
is the
nature. That's
yeah
what makes something wrong. If I do something wrong, you're essentially saying that my action didn't
yeah.
align with God's nature. That's what you're saying, right? So what if instead of I do something wrong, I intentionally, let's say I intentionally cause you to do something contrary to God's nature. Did I sin as well?
Look, let me think. Was it in James? It's not about God doesn't tempt. No one said God tempts them. Jesus does say, stumbling blocks will come, but woe to those who are stumbling blocks. So I would say that you are, like if that which would lead me astray, that which would intentionally, make me try and go against God's nature, I think it would also be a sinful thing. Yeah.
Okay, so I would be doing something that goes contrary to God's nature if I just cause you to do it. So by causing you to sin, I am sinning myself essentially.
Yes. And
And like manner, like if I cause you to do something good, then I also did something good as well, right?
I think so. I mean, ultimately, I'm responsible for my own actions. But I mean, obviously, if like I'm looking at that verse that where Jesus would just say, like, well, his statement about being a stumbling block and woe to those who'd be a stumbling block. Anyone who causes his little ones to sin, it's better for him to have a millstone thrown around his neck and all of those
Could
things. So yeah,
could God sin?
no.
Why not?
Well, it goes against his nature. Now, I know that some people want to say that that's a weakness, but I think the fact that God cannot sin is a strength. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It's a weakness. It's a failing. The fact that we're not as we should be. Is why we're able to sin.
Okay. So is there anything that happened? This is gonna sound off topic,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm gonna bring it back. I swear. So like when God created the universe, right? There was a point in time when God created the universe, right?
Yeah, or the
Was there
beginning of time.
was there like something before that, like something prior to God, or was God just the
No,
starting point?
I think God was the starting point. I think that time began when He created the universe.
Okay, so God essentially he established so he creates the universe and established this chain of events that leads out to us and Jesus and Mars and everything, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, I can see. Yeah, you're probably wondering where am I going. Okay, all right. So you're like, oh, where's this trap? Yes, trap's coming. I swear. All right. So if we're saying God caused everything, and there are things that happen that goes contrary to God's nature, God causes what goes contrary to His own nature. God is sinning.
Allows.
But no, he's not. He's not
Allows. Yeah.
allowing. No, he's not allowing. Because here's the thing. So like, allow would be something like if my child wandered on a street, wandered on some railroad tracks or something like that, and I didn't remove her. Right? I didn't put her on the street. I didn't the car that's coming her way. I'm not driving it. Like there's nothing that I did to cause her to be out there. I just abdicated my parental duties and didn't remove her. Right? So I allowed her to get hit. Right? But God isn't in that situation, right? Because there was no prior state of affairs before He caused, right? There was nothing. And then everything that happens after that is Him causing. So and you had to acknowledge if we cause somebody to sin, we're sinning. That's essentially what God is doing. He caused every sin that ever happened occurred because God caused it.
Okay, I'm not too sure how you arrive at that conclusion. How would it be that God causes me to, lose my temper, or me to murder someone? How's He causing it?
God created the universe. So God created the universe.
Yeah.
He put a snake in a garden, put a fruit there, knowing that it would be bit, knowing that Adam and Eve would do all of that, right? Like some would even argue He predestined it, right? I don't know. I'm not sure if that's your position, but it doesn't matter. Either way, God put enacted in a state of affairs knowingly and intentionally led to sinning. God caused sin.
Okay, again,
He caused people to sin.
That's a non sequitur, because it's sort of like this: knowing doesn't cause. Like you're assuming that God's foreknowledge is causative.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, it's very different. It's very different. I'm not saying knowing is cause. I'm saying He caused it. Like, so I could cause something, but it could be unintentionally, right? So for instance, like I could start a causal chain that leads up to like a second Holocaust, but unknowingly. Like I kill a butterfly, and then that butterfly didn't do a thing which caused somebody to flunk out of art school. And we can start some causal chain, right? But like if I did some small little events, knowing that it was going to lead to a second Holocaust, and I do it intentionally, I caused that Holocaust.
You're saying that knowing is causative.
I'm not saying knowing is called. No, God did a thing. His action is what caused it. The fact that He knew in advance what the result of His actions was going to be, that's what establishes the guilt. He knowingly and intentionally did it. I'm not saying His knowledge alone caused anything. I'm not.
But no, Toby, like I don't understand. So are you saying there's no free will? Because obviously in your explanation there's no free will.
I mean, the free will thing is a topic that really has nothing to do with this.
What we're saying. How so? No, because you said that God creating. So you see here, God created the universe, decided to put free will creatures in it. They freely chose to sin. How does God cause them to sin?
How about this? Let's just this scenario, right? Like, do you believe animals have free will?
I actually don't. I guess I think they are.
Do people have free will?
Yes, people have free will.
Okay, so if I open a door and intentionally let Jeffrey Dahmer in a room with a machete with a bunch of kids in there, knowing what he's going to do, Jeffrey Dahmer has his free will, but I know he's a serial killer. I let him in a room. Am I not sinning?
Did you let him in to kill all the kids?
I knew in advance that he was going to kill the kids. I intentionally opened the door and I let him walk right in. I am sinning. So whether you have free will or not, I am sinning. Jeffrey Dahmer's free will is totally irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that God knew in advance what the result of his decisions were going to be.
Okay. So does that also mean that God is also responsible for all the good in the world then? Because, you know, you love your
God
kids.
would be responsible for for everything. He's responsible for good. He's also responsible for sins. I'm not saying that God doesn't cause good things. Obviously, if he caused everything, if there's good things, he would cause those. But he also caused sin. He is sinning. God is immoral on his own standard.
Not caused. I don't think God caused sin. I think God allows sin. I think God put free creatures and, you know, created a world where we could freely sin.
But Liam, you said there was no prior state of affairs. It wasn't like there was sin was on its way into reality, and then God just kind of stepped back and allowed it in. God caused it. If God did nothing, there would be no sin. There'd be nothing. So whatever happens from his decision is because he caused it.
Again,
everything is a result of God's cause.
You're just repeating yourself. I'm just trying to see how if God created free will, if God created creatures with free will, okay, I don't see how he is now responsible for my misuse of that free will.
So Liam, so here's the thing. You can have free will. Remember in the scenario where I'm talking about this, Jeffrey Dahmer has a machete. He wants to go into a room. He has his free will. And I open the door and let him in. And I know what he's going to do. I am sinning, even though Jeffrey Dahmer has free will. It's not like I'm grabbed his hand, I'm making him chop people up. I'll just let him in. I'm sinning. Whether there's free will or not, I have some responsibility in that. You can say that Jeffrey Dahmer and I both share some responsibility because he has free will. He's choosing to do that. I chose to open the door. We shared responsibility, but I hold some of it. I sin there. That is how I'm looking at this. So whether there's free will or not, it really wouldn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Okay, so it's irrelevant
if there's no free will, God is entirely responsible. If there is free will, then he's partially responsible. So that only determines how much sin you want to, like how much like fault you want to attribute to God. But he gets some regardless. I would say also that he gets the most because I'm not omniscient, right? Like there are even limitations in my own capabilities. I can fall to sin, right? God doesn't have to. He's just choosing to.
Oh, going back here. Look, obviously, I don't see. Like, I understand that there's primary causes, secondary causes. You know, God is in control. It ultimately knew what was going to happen, but ultimately, I do believe that in the creation of free will, it means that we then bear the responsibility for what we do with the free will. But okay, for argument's
did you understand
sake,
my Jeffrey Dahmer example? How does Jeffrey Dahmer's free will alleviate me of any guilt?
How does that
resolve me of guilt?
I'm saying, but if you had if there was a morally sufficient reason to let Jeffrey Dahmer in,
there's not.
Then
there's not.
Then,
Okay, let's say there's not because I'm completely omnipotent. I can do whatever I want.
No, that's cool. So Tribule, you're saying that there's no morally justifiable reason for you to allow Jeffrey Dahmer or to open the door for Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay, 100%. I'm saying that they are. I'm not saying I know what they are, but I'm saying that if there's even the possibility that there is a morally justifiable reason to allow, the evil that's existed in this universe, then we can't say that therefore God was in the wrong to have done this. I'm just, you know what I mean? Because like you said, you're not omniscient. You don't know. Maybe,
yeah, but
ultimately more good would have come from all of that.
I don't have to be omniscient to know there wouldn't be a morally justifiable reason, because God is all powerful, right? If he's omnipotent, then then his plan is not contingent upon Jeffrey Dahmer getting to murder people.
Oh,
It's
so
wholly unnecessary. But God is all powerful.
how do you know? How do you know in a if God wanted? I'm just saying. Now you're assuming that you know more than an omniscient God.
No, I'm not saying I know more than an omniscient God. What I'm saying
Okay,
is
so
I
so
can
you
look
admit,
at this logically.
yeah.
Like,
So no, but I'm saying, so you admit that there could have been a morally sufficient reason to let Jeffrey Dahmer in,
not for God,
but
not for any all powerful being. No,
not for. Okay, so you know more than an all powerful omniscient God. Interesting.
no. By definition, an all powerful being would not be contingent upon Jeffrey Dahmer. He wouldn't be all powerful. Are you saying God's plan is dependent upon sin? God's like, I want to do this thing, but I can't do it without sin.
Yes, I think.
God
it boils
needs
down.
sin.
No, it boils down like this. To me, I think that the only way that an all-powerful, omniscient God could produce a people who freely chose him, I think that it would have meant that the universe had to roll out the way that it did. Now, God could have maybe created a
People
different
have
universe.
free will in heaven.
I believe they will, but I also believe that
but is there sin in heaven?
No, because we've dealt with the sin on this side of it.
So in heaven, you have free will without sin.
But the only way to get there was for us.
No, he doesn't need to get there. Okay, how about, did Adam have
No,
free will?
wait. No, wait.
Did Adam have free will prior to eating the apple?
Yes.
Okay, so he didn't need sin, did he? Adam had free will prior to it, so you don't need sin for it. By your
I'm not
own
saying
admission.
but Tribulate, by your own admission, you're saying you know better than an all-powerful, omniscient God how it would have
That's
to
not
roll
what
out.
I'm saying. What I'm
it's
saying.
Not what you're saying. Okay.
No,
it's not what
I'm not
hearing.
saying I know better. What I'm saying is the to claim that God would need sin, would it the claim that an all-powerful being would need sin entails a contradiction. I don't have to be all-knowing or know more than somebody who's omniscient to recognize a contradiction. All-powerful beings aren't contingent upon anything to accomplish their will. They can just do whatever they want. That's what being omnipotent means.
Again, so do you believe that God could make a square circle, or do you believe that God could make 2 + 2 = 5?
Could God make 2 + 2? He could change the nature of 2, but that would be a logical that would be a logical contradiction.
Now you see, this would be another thing. Yes, exactly. So what I'm saying is,
but there is no logical contradiction, and not having sin and with free will.
Okay.
There's no logical contradiction there. What you're pointing out is a logical contradiction, and
yes.
I'll agree with that. And that's the logical contradiction is the same reason that I'm saying that God wouldn't need sin. But you have heaven and you have Adam prior to eating a fruit. Both of those things existed.
Tribulate, if you give me a moment. What I'm trying to say is also with it's fine. I mean, you're obviously feeling passionate about this. I'm just, again, it just seems that you're saying, like you're saying, if you were God, you wouldn't have allowed this to happen. But I almost is like, but you don't know what it is that God wants to work.
That's not what I said.
No, but that's what it seems to be, because if there is an all-powerful God,
that is wrong. I can clarify that is not what I'm saying.
Okay, cool. I know it's not what you think you're saying, but it's kind of what you seem to be. It's just what I'm hearing. But I
never uttered that sentence even close. And
I know.
Fact, I actively
I'm just
refuting it right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually following the logic of what you're saying. You're saying that God shouldn't have done this because you know better than him, and I'm not sure how. But let me back up. Let me just reverse now. With regards to the 2 + 2 = 5 and making a square circle, look, this is one of the ways that people say this as well. The same way I said that morality flows from the very nature of God. We also believe that logic flows from the very nature of God. It's like God can't make a square circle in any universe. So there's no possible universe where a square circle could exist. Mm-hmm. And here I'm bringing it back down to this. So in the same way, I mean, I believe that the only way that God could produce free creatures that would actually freely choose him was that there had to be the possibility and the actuality.
You don't believe that. You don't believe that. Because you said that Adam had free will prior to eating the fruit.
Yes, and he misused it.
Okay,
and the
so,
only way we
so
can,
if you believe that,
and
then you don't believe that they needed sin in order to have free will.
no, but what I'm saying
You
is, in
also
order
believe
for
they have
God to
free will in
produce,
heaven.
no, yes, but a sanctified free will.
Did Adam have a sanctified free will?
There's, there are four, like there were kind of four stages.
Okay.
We were perfect in the garden. We were perfect and able to sin. And then we fell into sin, so we were imperfect and unable to stop sinning. Now, as Christians, if we're sanctified, we are imperfect but able to stop sinning. And then in the eternal state, we'll be perfect and unable to sin again. I think that part of us is going to be fixed. I'm just saying, I do believe that the only way that God could get people that would freely choose him and not just be robots. If he had wanted to just create robots, we would have gone straight there. But in order for us to actually choose him freely and not be coerced and all of these things, I think we had to go through what
you don't
we've
believe
seen.
that. You
I
already
don't.
said you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
the way I know you don't
Go,
believe that is because
go
you
ahead and tell
said
me.
Adam had those things prior to sin.
Yes,
There's
and look
a
what he did with them.
contradiction. so okay, so you can't say that in order for God to have people with free will, he had to allow sin. If you have Adam prior to sin, also you have Eve prior to sin, and then you have people in heaven after sin, but they're not sinning, yet still have free will.
But I think the only way
So
to get all
your
those people into the eternal
theology is
states.
everywhere. It's a contradiction.
I don't think so, but okay. It's more like if you're shouting contradiction when it's just this is how I think it was. In order for me, like I think that if Adam and Eve hadn't sinned, maybe I wouldn't be here as a believer in Christ. Maybe we wouldn't have like 1 billion Christians on the face of the planet right now. You know what I mean? It just might not have rolled out that way. And it also is, I mean, to see that God is greater and can actually work good from sin. I think that speaks of a better glory for of God.
That's fine, but the problem is God also sins by your own definition. That's why I was very specific with my questions. I asked you if you do something that goes contrary to God's nature, are you sinning? You said yes, that's a sin. And then I asked, and this was a trap. If I caused you to do something that goes contrary to God's
But he
nature,
hasn't caused us. You think he's caused us?
He
This is what's
did. He
strange.
did by your own definition. Because at the beginning, when I asked you, was there any state of affairs prior to God? The answer was no. So everything after God's initial action, after his first cause, everything after that was caused by God. That's
Again,
how logic works.
Okay, well, I don't think you're being logical. It's like unless God actually, made me sin, he hasn't caused me to sin. He's allowed sin. How did he make me sin? How did he make me hate or lose my temper or lie?
He caused it.
What? No, he created the universe where sin could happen.
He created
but
the
he
universe.
Didn't.
He puts a sin fruit in the garden, and puts a snake there, and
It's not sin. It's not sin fruit, by the way.
I know, forbidden fruit. I know. No.
It was the knowledge of good and evil.
Good and
I
evil,
think that
yes.
I think the only person that can know what sin is without sinning, Adam and Eve didn't learn sin, theoretically. They didn't. The only way they could learn about sin was to experience, like to actually sin. They actually had to sin to learn what sin was. I think that only God can know what sin is without sinning. But I mean, look, that's obviously
But
like
God also sins.
a moot point. Okay. No, you're insisting that God sins when I decide to do something evil and I decide to lie for for selfish reasons. I'm going to go and lie now. But I don't see how God didn't make me do that. I decided to do that.
Remember the scenario that I presented.
Every time I sin, I don't. It means that I'm not trusting in God the way I should.
Is there anything that happens outside of God's cause?
Nothing happens outside of God's control and will.
His cause, his initial cause, when he first did the thing that created the reality.
I'm to be like, no, I've already answered that. But what I'm saying is, I think there's a non sequitur there.
He caused it, Liam. That's what it means. He caused it. That's what that word means.
But you're saying that he created a universe where people could lie, and then he made them lie, and it's like, no. And let me even clarify that, like, lie selfishly. It's like he created a universe where you could lie selfishly. That doesn't mean that he made me lie selfishly.
I said he caused them to lie.
Yeah, I know. And I'm saying, like, no, he caused a universe to exist where people could lie.
But
and then they decided to lie.
I asked you, but at like about 20 seconds ago,
Yeah,
I
and I'm not
asked you
changing
verbatim. I asked, is there anything that happens that is outside of God's cause? And you said no. God caused everything. Well, if sin happens, if God causes everything and sin is a thing, then that means God caused it. That's just deduction.
What are you doing? You're using the word cause in two different ways. I thought you meant cause as in
I'm using cause in one word, in one way.
No, a cause, a purpose. That was how I was hearing it. Like, is anything happening outside of God's purpose?
I'm not using cause and purpose synonymously.
So you mean no, but then I'm gonna say no. Like, God caused the universe. I gave you the definition, at least as I think it is. Like, the most sensible one is that God caused the universe to exist where people could lie. He didn't make the people lie. He didn't cause the people to lie.
So the God doesn't cause everything.
No, he doesn't cause sin in that he doesn't
he
make
causes
me sin.
Everything but sin.
He causes. It's just he caused
I'm just
the
trying to
universe
make
to
sense.
exist.
It's an honest question.
Yeah.
You laugh. Okay, so he causes everything else.
No, he caused the universe to exist and he upholds the universe, but he doesn't cause me to sin. I mean, that's just I don't know. That's like Christianity 101.
There are things that God doesn't cause.
No, he doesn't cause I mean, like I say, in a universe populated with
yes or no, does God cause everything?
No, well, like you just said, he created the whole universe. He holds all of the atoms together, but he also created free will.
It's just something that's outside of God's cause. But God caused the free will, right? So no, hold on. Let's just we'll just throw the free will. I don't believe in free will, but we could just let's say
so then.
So God caused free. Hold up, William.
I'd love to explore that. I'd love to explore that.
But hold on. I just want to stay here. I want to stay here for a second. Okay.
Well,
God
you have no choice but to. I've got no choice but to.
God causes free will.
Creates free will.
He knowingly. That he knowingly creates free will, knowing that it was going to lead to sin. So what I'm saying, so you have this thing called free will. It didn't just exist on its own. God formed it that way. He formed it with certain tendencies. For Jeffrey Dahmer, killing and eating people, right?
No.
He gives them that free will, and then he acts it out. But God's not responsible.
No. Because it's free will. Jeffrey Dahmer decided to take the gift of free will and use it to do those horrible things.
So if I intentionally let Jeffrey Dahmer into a nursery where he proceeds to chop up a bunch of kids, now Jeffrey Dahmer has free will. I ain't doing anything wrong, guys.
Did you have morally justified sufficient reasons to allow that to happen?
So as a less than omnipotent being, I may.
You may.
Yeah, I may. Let's say in this crazy scenario, there was a blow up the universe button and Jeffrey Dahmer was definitely going to press it. And the only way I could stop him is by letting him.
Yeah, was that way? Yeah.
So like that's a scenario that I could be presented with. If I'm omnipotent, no, there is no justifiable reason, because whatever the outcome that I want, whatever outcome I want, I could accomplish without letting Jeffrey Dahmer in the room, because that's what it means to be omnipotent.
But without like I said, God can't make a square circle. So the only way he could achieve
that's a contradiction. This isn't a contradiction, though.
No, what I'm saying is, it's nonsense to say that God can give us free will and then he makes us do something.
I'm not saying God. I'm not saying
that's a contradiction.
No, I'm not. Liam. In my scenario, I didn't make Jeffrey Dahmer do anything. I just knew what he was going to do.
Yeah, now you just explained what God does.
So
you just explained what God does, and you had morally, and you came up with a morally justifiable. You came up with a morally justifiable reason for it.
You keep straw manning. You keep straw manning me. You keep straw manning my analogy. In the scenario, Jeffrey Dahmer isn't. I didn't make him do anything. He's acting out of his free will.
And
Just
you
like
had morally
God.
just and you had morally justifiable reasons to allow it to happen. So you've just given us a scenario where an omnipotent being who
No, I
knows, well, an
didn't. And
omniscient.
I said in a less than omnipotent being.
You said
An
even as a less than
omnipotent
omnipotent
being
being.
wouldn't have a justifiable reason because he could just stop it. He's omnipotent. He could
How
snap
would
his
you know
fingers
that? Just explain
because
to me.
that's
How would you know that?
what does it mean to be omnipotent?
And it says you can't do anything non-contradictory. Like you can't make a square circle. You
Right,
can't
but
make a
you
free.
can do everything else, right?
You can.
Okay,
Well, he's still.
So no, hold on. No, if I snap my fingers and make Jeffrey Dahmer just freeze in time, what's the contradiction? There's no
Well,
contradiction. I
no, but
would
now you
be able
see.
to do that. What I'm saying is, if it's just me who's not omnipotent, I could have a justifiable reason. For instance, stopping him from pressing a blow up the universe button.
I think you're contradicting yourself to say that you
Where's
would
my
know that an omnipotent being has got no justifiable reason for allowing things to have happened the way they did.
I know,
I'm
I
like, how do you know that? Like,
because
you
that's
would
how
have to,
logic works. How do you know that a square circle can't exist?
because a square has got four sides and a circle has got one
Right,
side.
because it's a contradiction. Right? If
Yeah.
you have four, you
So
can't have only one. It's a
Tribulate,
contradiction.
it's
What I'm saying is the same scenario.
okay. Okay. No, Tribulate, it's a contradiction to say that we have free will, but that we don't have free will.
I didn't say we don't have free will. What I'm saying is
But
you raise free will, and what I'm saying is it doesn't change it doesn't change anything.
well, it absolutely changes everything. It seems like you don't understand how free will plays a part in this, or at least not
Does
how I've
Jeffrey
explained
Dahmer
it.
so Jeffrey Dahmer has free will in my scenario, right?
Yes.
I let him in the room. Do I hold any responsibility for it?
If there's morally justifiable reasons for it, because it's working out the
Okay, let's
like
say there
a
is
greater
no
good.
morally justifiable reason. I open the door
Okay.
because
No,
I'm
yes.
omnipotent.
No,
Hey,
but now
in a scenario, I am
Tribulate,
omnipotent.
if there was no morally justifiable reason for that to happen, it would be sin. But there might be
What
more.
would be the what would be the moral justifiable reason for an all-powerful being to let Jeffrey Dahmer into a room with a bunch of children?
As I said, I'm not omniscient, so I might not know the morally justifiable reason. But if there is just a chance, if there's just a chance that there's a morally justifiable reason,
There's not a
then
chance that
but now how would you know that?
it's
I'm
equal
still
to the
trying to get to
chance,
that.
Liam.
Tribulate, I'm trying to get to that.
Liam. It's equal
You
to
would
the
have
chance.
to. You just
And
insist
Liam,
that there's no.
I'm yes,
Just
I am
insisting.
insisting there's no justifiable reason because it's a contradiction in omnipotence. To say that he needs it means he's not omnipotent.
Not needs, as in has decided to work through it, is a bit different from like needs it. But if he's decided to do it in
So
this
he's
world,
deciding to do it, but he doesn't have to. So what God has his goal, and he can accomplish it without letting Jeffrey Dahmer kill a bunch of
but
children.
how,
But he
how do you know
chooses
that?
to do it anyway. That's not a justification.
No, but you see, I don't think you're quite following what I'm trying to say. If God has decided, and you know what God wants, God is going to get. But I'm just saying that as a good God, and I know that He has a reason to allow this evil. You know what I mean? I might not know what that reason is, you know, but I mean, as a God that has entered into the.
There can
If
be
I
a
may ask,
reason.
okay.
The question
Now,
is if
if,
it's justified.
and look, to be again, you say you don't believe in free will, so I've got no choice but to believe what I'm believing. It's not my fault. I can't do anything about it. You got no choice to believe what you're believing. How does removing God from the equation solve anything?
What do you mean?
Because now, like, you must think that it solves something to remove God from the equation on like your morality.
I'm not saying it solves anything. So like I don't believe in God for the same reason I don't believe in Santa Claus. I just don't have any evidence. There's not some grand problem that the absence of God solves.
Okay, so God is not there, evil happens, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, that's the way I see it.
Okay.
There's no contradiction in that at all.
Yeah, there's also no hope in that either.
There is hope. I have plenty of hope. I have a happy life. I have a wife. I have a kid. I have a great career.
As long as you're not thinking
exactly
about
what
the
I
stuff
wanted to
that's
do in
gone
life.
wrong in the world, you know?
Say it again.
Okay. As long as you're not thinking about the evil things that do happen in this world, like farm murders, even though there's no white genocide.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
okay, yeah, but there's still hope. You said I don't have any hope. Yeah,
Well,
I
not
can have hope.
ultimately.
And then I can hope that things change in South Africa. I can hope. But if there is an all-powerful God who caused everything, he caused those murders in South Africa. Though that's
Again,
God's
not
fault. Even if the
again,
murderers
not
have free
cause. I
will,
mean,
he has
you
responsibility for it.
you're still making this non sequitur because God created free agents. He made them sin. It's like no,
No, that's not what I'm saying. What
you
if
just said cause. You said cause. You said he
yes,
caused the
God
sin.
caused
It's
it.
like
Yes,
no.
God caused it. So, Liam, if God caused everything and sin is a thing, free will is a thing, then God caused both of those things.
Again, if he created
That's
free
just
agents,
deductive reasoning.
no, no.
It's
But
like
I think
if I said everything in a house is blue, and then I say your shoe is in a house. What color is your shoe, Liam?
but now
The shoe has to be blue because everything in a house is blue. So if we say that God created everything and free will is a thing and sin is a thing, then God must have created it or caused it. If God
okay.
caused everything, those are things, then God caused it. That's just how it works.
Should be like well, obviously, I think your faulty reasoning. Like I said, God
Please,
created a universe.
fallacy. I
God,
want the fallacy. Be specific. Tell me where's the fallacy.
okay, you're saying, look, as I said, you're saying that because God created free agents, he then made them sin.
No,
And it's like, no,
no, didn't
that's
say that.
not
I didn't say that.
then God hasn't caused the sin.
I didn't say that. So remember, God caused the
No,
free
no,
will.
if
So
you're
now
not
we
saying that,
have no. Okay, look, here's. Let me go back to the Jeffrey Dahmer analogy. So listen, Jeffrey Dahmer doesn't exist. I make him. I'm omnipotent, right? I make Jeffrey Dahmer, and then I gives him a will. Boom, and then I make it free. So he has a will, and now it's free. So now he has this free will, and he wants to kill children and eat them. And I open a door where children are at and let them in. According to you, I didn't do anything wrong.
if you have morally justifiable reasons, like you said, because you want to save the universe from being blown up, there
That will
might be a
only
morally
work. That
justifiable
only
reason.
works, Liam. That only works with a non-omnipotent being. If I'm omnipotent, I could just remove the button, right? I could just snap my fingers, button's gone. If I'm
So
not
you want
omnipotent, I have to get them out the room.
so you wanted to make a world where free agents have got no consequences for their actions. So we're not really free.
I didn't say anything close to that.
No, well,
And
uh,
anybody watching, they can just
uh,
rewind and tape.
no,
You
it's
just made that
following.
up.
No, that's following the logic of what you're saying. If God has decided to work his will through free creatures, as in he wants to bring about the ultimate good through the wrong misuse of free will,
Mhm.
I'm just saying it's like you're
No,
assuming that.
you don't need the sin
And
part.
again,
Remember when
now
I
you
asked
could,
you about heaven, people have free will in heaven, and
um,
there's no sin, so there don't need to be any consequences of sin.
but
Adam had free will prior to eating the forbidden fruit, which means he can have free will and he doesn't need sin, nor does he need the consequences of sin.
But Tribulate, I'm suggesting, and this is just obviously thought experiment here, but
Mhm.
maybe if Adam and Eve hadn't sinned, you wouldn't exist, I wouldn't exist, and maybe the universe is better with us existing.
So
Ultimately.
you're saying so? So let's say that. Let's follow
So I'm
that
saying
through. So
there's
if
a
Adam and Eve
morally.
didn't sin, you and I couldn't exist, and not
I'm
even
just
God could
I'm
change that.
I'm suggesting if
Could
God had given free will, and
could
I'm saying
I'm asking the question now. Could God have made us without Adam and Eve sinning?
I'm I'm saying I don't know if God could have
Yes.
brought about.
Liam,
No,
yes,
no,
you
no.
do.
Listen,
Just answer the question.
listen. Tribulate, I'm trying to answer the question, Tribulate. I know it's interesting, but usually Facade that is speaking over me. uh,
He's not
no,
here.
but like
I got to make up for him.
yeah, I know, 100%. All I'm saying is I think that if God wanted to bring about through the free choices of his creatures that you and I exist in this universe, there could have been. I'm just saying. I think that it makes sense that the only way that I might have become a Christian is if the world, the universe had rolled out with the free choices that humans had made in this way, and
Could
then
God
it's
make you a
and
Christian? Hold on.
it's a contra. it's a can I finish? It's a contradiction in my estimation. It's a contradiction to say that God created free creatures and then he had to make them, you know what I'm saying?
that
So
would be a contradiction, but I'm not saying that.
So then I'm saying, so I believe that God, the way that he wanted to bring Liam and Tribulate about was through the free actions of Adam and Eve leading up to this point.
But he could have done it without it. He could have given us free will.
Again, like I say, I think it's a contradiction to then come and say that no, he would have had to override and not allow, or remove the button, and then that removes the actual free consequence. Anyway, I'm just saying, I think that this is how it is.
Stop, Liam. You already acknowledged that people in heaven have free will, yet there's no sin.
But that's only after having lived through a world with evil.
And hold on, Adam, who's not in heaven, right? Who didn't go through it, who prior to the forbidden fruit never knew a world with sin in it. He had free will as well. What would be the contradiction? So if you remove the fruit and there was no possibility for Adam to sin because the fruit's gone, right? So he can't gain that knowledge. Adam has his free will. He's in there with Eve, married, making holy babies. And then everybody's born automatically holy. We don't sin. We still have our free will. The free will doesn't go away. There is no contradiction here.
What I'm saying is, if the humans don't have an option,
can you explain the scenario I presented? What's the contradiction?
I think that it would be a matter of, like if we can't decide not to do what God wants, then there is no, like, we don't ultimately have the free will, if that makes sense. And heaven is going to be a scenario where we have. And by the way, I think Adam is in heaven, by the way. So
yeah, but
it will be because of God's redemption. Yeah,
that's fine. I don't care where Adam is. The problem is that he had free will prior.
But the reason that he could,
we can move.
I mean, I hear you.
Here. We can move on to another point I wanted to go to.
I wanted to maybe ask, because I understand you're a moral realist. Is that correct? Eh?
Yeah, but Liam, we already, Liam, we had like a 2-hour conversation about my position.
Yeah. But I just wanted to, but there was actually some clarity because it was interesting. I know that. Did you agree with Facade when he said you can't get an ought from an is?
Yes.
So even if something is evil, there's nothing saying that I should avoid that evil. Because you can't get an ought from an is. So
it is true. It is true that you cannot get an ought from an is. But that doesn't mean that there's no reason why you shouldn't do something evil.
I understand, but you're saying there's nothing that says that we shouldn't do something evil. There might be.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I just said you don't get an ought from an is.
Okay, so you don't get an ought from an is. So like, this is what I'm just trying to see, because it sounded like this is.
I can explain, but you just keep asking me these short questions because you're trying to trap me. This is
no. I'm not trying to trap you. I'm just trying to understand, because as I understand it,
let me explain if you want to understand.
Yeah, but can I maybe just can I maybe say it and you can tell me where I'm getting it wrong? Is actually what I'm because so it is good to love and take care of your children.
Yes.
And it's evil to abuse them, and you know what I mean? That is. But there's nothing that says that I have an obligation to choose the good and not do the big.
Wrong.
Okay. Can I really, like, I just wanted to understand that.
Obligations come from values. That's it. So like there's a limitation in how logic works for why you can't get it off from an is. Like if you just have a bunch of is statements, then you can't have a ought from it. Like you say, like if you can't, in logic, you cannot have new information inside your conclusion that's not contained in your premises. You understand? So unless there's an ought already built into your premises, then you cannot have one in your conclusion. It's just a limitation of logic.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why you just can't get there. It can't be done, right? It's just
Okay.
any alt from is going to be a non sequitur, right? And that now our alts come from values.
Okay.
So I value well-being. I want people to be happy, free, secure, healthy, wealthy. Because I value those things, there are alts.
Okay, that
based
in
on
order
those
to achieve
values.
that,
So yeah, yes,
to
those
achieve
are
the values, the odds. Okay.
those are my obligations. Yes, but
Then
those alts are coming from values, not from
yeah.
ises.
Okay.
So like I told my daughter, she has a next door neighbor, a little boy she plays with. She loves him to death. I
Yeah.
told her, hey, if you value your friend, then you'll be a moral person. But there's no is. I couldn't be like, hey, your friend exists, therefore you should do
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
That doesn't follow.
And what determines what is what the values are there values that we should have?
Are there values that you should have?
Yeah.
So if the value is the starting.
Can I maybe say
the
yes
value
or no?
is the starting.
Tribulate, yes or no? Are there values that we should have?
So it's like asking what's north of the North Pole.
Okay.
So the should comes from the value.
Yeah.
So
Are there values that we should have?
If you say if there are values that you should have, that's going to be based on another value.
Okay. So
I would say you should value humans. That comes from my value because of valuing humans.
But there's nothing that says I should value humans. Because if I don't agree with your values, then
and God doesn't fix that. I can just disagree with God. God values things that I don't. For instance, God doesn't care about people. He cares about himself. He'll let people suffer just because he gets glory from it. And so I reject his values and I value humanity. You see what I'm saying? God doesn't resolve that problem. But yes, if our values don't agree, then we're going to have different alts.
Okay. So if I value inflicting pain and suffering, then I am being morally consistent if I
Nope.
But then so there are values that we should have and values that we shouldn't have.
No. So remember our conversation when we talked about morality, right? Doing something that coincides with your values doesn't mean you're doing something that's good. So I gave a strict definition of morality, right? So for me, morality my moral system are just ises. That's it. And you were getting hung up on what are the alts, and I was just explaining how this just is, right? So like if you cut my head off, you're doing something immoral because it violates my health. That's a is. Where you were getting hung up on was where was the alt, because that system doesn't say that you ought to not cut off my head, because there's nothing that says that you ought, outside of your values. The system doesn't say that you ought to care about being moral. If you value humanity, then you'll be a moral person.
So it's about person's values, but there's no definition of what people ought to value.
The alts come from values.
And but there's no values that we ought to hold. We just hope that everyone holds the correct values, but there are no correct values. I'm just saying, because
what do you mean correct values? What do you mean? So when you say correct, like correct, when you say something like correct, you're talking about like a statement that is true, right? True is something that corresponds to reality. If you value something, you're not making any sort of proposition. Like when I value humanity, I'm not proposing anything. I'm not saying anything's true. I'm just saying I value humanity. So there are things that I do that contribute to that.
Ought we to value humanity?
So my value says, yes, you ought to value humanity. That comes from my value of humanity.
Okay, now it sounds like it sounds a bit like we're going in a circle. I'm
Yeah,
wondering,
I explained from the
could you
beginning.
send,
I explained like 3 minutes ago you were going in a circle. That's why I asked you what's north of the North Pole. That's what it's like asking.
yeah, Triple, it just seems as if it sounds like you want to anyway.
It
At the end of
sounds like
the
what?
day, I mean,
What's the contradiction?
it just sounds as if you want to have your cake and eat it. Like you don't want to have to defend why we have these values because it simply is. I mean,
You didn't ask
like
me
I said,
why we have the values.
no,
That's not a question you asked.
but I'm trying to get
Liam,
to
stop. Look.
you just seem to have a list. You just seem
At
to have
what
a list of
point did
this
you
is
ask
good, this is
Liam?
evil.
Liam, at what point did you ask me why we have those values? You
Okay,
never
why?
asked that. I can go in. I can go into that.
I've been asking like where. So where do these values come
You didn't
from?
ask me why we have the values.
But I'm asking, okay.
You asked me are there values that we ought to have? That's what you were asking me.
And
Why
I'm
we
trying to get
have
to.
them is a different question.
So do you want to answer that one? Why do we have these values?
Why do we have those values?
Where
Because
should we get our values from? Like how? Like
so.
But again, like but now it still seems like you're
Do
non-committal.
you
So
want me to? Do you want me to answer that question?
I just want to make sure that I'm phrasing it right before you turn
What
around and say that I didn't
question?
phrase it right.
What is the question that you want me to ask?
I want to know is how should we live, and are there values that we should have?
So when you say that are there values that you should have, that should is going to come from another value. You understand? So if
So
at the top, there's going to be any sort of ought. At the top, there's going to be a value. That's just the way it works. It would be like asking what's north of the North Pole. Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Okay, so it makes no sense. It makes no sense where we get our values from.
It makes no sense. It wouldn't make any sense to say what's north of the North Pole because the North Pole is how you define north, right? Now, to say what value ought we have, that wouldn't make any sense because the value is what you get the ought from.
Tribulate, it sounds a lot. Look, I know that you spend a lot of time trying to build the system, but as someone who I just don't understand, like
it is functionally equivalent, just like you. Okay,
so
you can't.
It's only
okay, Liam. Okay, that's why I gave you this. I gave you this analogy, right? The North Pole is how you define north, right? Your values is how you define the ought. Okay, so to ask what's north of the North Pole makes no sense because the pole is how you define north. Likewise, to ask where ought you get your values doesn't make any sense because the value is how you define the ought.
So it makes no sense to. So it makes no sense to value people. Well, it doesn't make any more sense to value people than not to value people.
So, but both things make sense. You didn't say anything incoherent.
But I'm just saying, if
what do you mean? Okay. Yes, it makes sense to not value people. That makes sense. That you said you spoke perfect English. I know exactly what that means and what that looks like to not value people.
But are you saying so? It's not that I ought to value people, or whether I value people or not. If it lines up with my values, not to value people. If I value not valuing people, that's as valid a value to hold as valuing people.
What do you mean by valid?
Like
valid points to the structure of an argument. So if something could be valid, it doesn't mean that it's good.
But you're saying, but I'm just saying,
what did you mean by valid? You said
as in,
you said not valuing people is just as valid as valuing people. What do you mean by that?
I mean, it seems as if on because you're getting into values from the ises, like, you know what I mean? Like, so it is good. It's always good everywhere to help someone, and it's always bad no matter what, to hurt someone. You know what I mean? And again, it would be hurt for selfish reasons or for fun or whatever we want to put in there.
So my system, it wouldn't matter.
But what I'm saying is, it just seems if you can't tell me if I don't value people because I don't value people, you can't come along and tell me that I should value people.
I can't come along and do that.
Okay.
Maybe
So
and maybe you don't find
okay.
it convincing. You could just say,
Yeah.
no, you should not value people, and then we can
Yeah.
sit
And
here
then
and argue
obviously
about it.
and then we'd have to argue about it. But why would we argue? Why would you argue about it? Because there's no.
Because I value people, and if you don't, you're making the world worse according to my values. That's why I do it.
But okay, so you do think your values are superior to someone who doesn't value people?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I think I have the best values. My values are better than
How do you?
anyone else's, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if I
How do you
thought there was a
quantify
better
that?
value, if I thought there was a better value, then I would hold that one.
But how do you quantify that? How are you judging that?
It's,
What standard are you holding your
I
values
am
up to?
judging. It is my opinion that my value is better. If someone came along with a value that I thought was better, then that's the one I would accept. That's everybody does that.
Okay, so you can judge values
Everybody thinks they have
by
the
a
best
standard
value.
that doesn't, by a standard that doesn't exist.
Yes, you can definitely judge values. But what I'm saying is everybody believes that they have the best value.
Yeah.
Everybody
Cool,
does.
man. Sorry, man. I'm also looking at this. Tamia, you wanted to ask something else? Because I don't want to. Hey, were you saying this might be one of your last podcasts? Or are you taking a break from it for a little bit? Or
I might be taking a break. I mean, like I'm like, so my co-host, he's not really on the show as much anymore, and it's
okay.
a lot of times it's just not as fun. Although I enjoy this conversation. This is
Yeah,
a conversation that I actually want to get back to, but that's kind of why. It's not as fun. It's not as much fun without my co-host, and also I'm kind of busy. He's busy, and that's just the way life is. So,
how long did you guys run it for?
About 3 years.
Sure. Okay. And I mean, again, like you said, who knows? Maybe you pick it up again in 6 months' time or something.
I might pick it up next week. I got somebody that wants to come on the show, so that's fine. But can we get back to the morality thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look.
Do you have like 15 more minutes?
Yeah. Let's do that.
I mean, if you're not, you're on the other side of the planet. I get it if you're tired, man.
No, it's cool. I mean, this is every time. I have learned engaging with you guys that my brain is not nearly as limber as I thought it was. But I mean, at the same time, if I introduce that now at this stage, is to say, look, just so you know, it was always like in the AM on this side. You know what I mean? But yeah. Okay, yeah, man. So what did you want to ask?
Well, I wanted to ask.
Okay. Last comment on that. It just seems to me that if you can't go and tell someone that these are the values that they should have, I don't know if you have morality. I don't know if you just have a list.
I can't do that. But my value,
okay,
morality. Remember, I separate morality from values.
But you get your your morality from your values.
So, I define what morality is, and my definition
based on your values.
So, oh yeah, sure. Like I value well-being, and so I define what well-being is, and then I define morality based on how an act contributes to well-being, and based on this contribution, I say that's moral, that isn't.
Okay, and then you try and convince me that your definitions and values are. It still seems like you have a shopping list of what you believe is good and bad, but that you don't have any like. And then you because you said it's your opinion. It's like it comes down to opinion.
The value is an opinion. The system isn't. It's based on the definition, right? Just like the definition of a foot is 12 inches, right? So so whether something is 12 inches isn't a matter of opinion.
But it goes further back. It's like, no, I get that, but like, anyway, it just seems strange to me because it's like if I don't, and also if I define well-being as your death, then if I'm murdering you, like under your definition, that's murder. Under my definition, it's not. So I still feel like we need something above that.
Your definition would be a contrabeing. I mean, a contradiction. Like if I'm dead,
according to your values, but not according to my values.
No, not according to the value. If I'm dead, then I can't have well-being.
No, but remember, I believe in afterlife. I believe in all of those things. I believe that maybe I think that it's well-being not of humans, but of the planet.
Okay,
You
well,
know what I
it
mean?
violates
Yeah.
my health. Whether I get to go to heaven afterwards doesn't matter. It
But you're still
violates my health
assuming.
to kill me. If you kill me,
But
you
you're
violate
still.
my health.
But you're still assuming that it's bad, and it's like, but
I'm not
according to my
assuming that
values,
it's
it's
bad.
not.
No, it's based on the
Yeah.
definition. It's like when
Triple A,
we
sorry, I've
we're not
taken us.
assuming
Yeah.
that 12 inches equal a foot. That's a proposition.
But now remember, it could have. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just. I don't want to, because I'm the one that's taking it over here, because it's still. It still
Can we
strikes me as if you. Anyway, it still
can
means
we
that you
have you
get to
back?
decide. Yes.
Can
Yes.
we get
Yes.
you
That's
back
what I'm
on
saying.
another time and I can let you
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
go into my mode.
Possibly. Yeah. Yeah. 100%, man. So.
Okay. So I want to know, okay, so is there anything that God could do and it would be a sin?
No.
Okay,
It
so
would be. It's a contradiction.
like God could even kill me and it
Yes.
would be a sin. Why does
Because
God
now
get to
remember,
kill me?
because he's the giver of life, and he gets to determine how long that life will be.
Okay, so he get to do whatever he wants with me.
I believe so.
And
Yes, and I
he
mean,
can
and he's a
rip
good
my
God.
arm. He get to rip my arm off, right? Because he created it. It's like it's his. I belong to him, right? He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, but look, I also don't think that he's a God that is gonna
No, hold on. It
create.
doesn't matter. It
I'm
doesn't matter
saying.
how. I just want to stay
I'm,
here.
I'm,
We got a
I'm
short
just
time.
saying.
We
I'm
can't
just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying. And look, I would again then make a differentiation between murder and killing and all of these things. But
You
yeah,
don't
yeah.
have to do murder and killing.
Mm,
It's
mm, mm,
irrelevant. It's
mm.
irrelevant to the trap that's coming. Okay, we said God can do whatever He wants with me, right? Because
He's God. Yeah.
He caused it, right? Okay, so God could like touch me in a sexual way, and it would be good.
No, but God wouldn't touch you in a sexual way because that was contrary to his nature.
I didn't ask you what He would do. I'm asking if he could do it. And
I'm
also,
saying he
I don't know. I don't know why wouldn't He do it? It wouldn't be wrong if God did it, right?
no.
No,
Again, remember,
but you said no. Hold on.
no,
You
yeah.
said
Hold on.
God gets to do whatever He wants
Hold
with
on.
my body.
I said,
It's not
I
wrong
said,
if God does it.
Tribulate. What I'm saying now doesn't not contradict what I said earlier, that sin is what goes against God's nature. So God isn't going to sexually molest you, because in God's very nature, He will never sexually molest you. Do you understand? If you
But
get
it
touched
would.
sexually, by a spiritual being, that isn't God, because that is going against God's nature. And again, I would say that sin is obviously going to be punished and has been dealt with on the cross. And those who reject the what was done on the cross are going to then be punished
But
for their sins.
okay, but so God
So,
wouldn't do it because it's wrong. Is what you're saying essentially.
but I'm saying it's wrong because in His very nature, that is not what He would do.
Okay, but
Therefore, when we do it,
if he did do it, it would be in His nature, and He wouldn't be doing anything wrong,
but tribulate,
right?
uh,
The answer is yes.
yeah. But I'm saying, but His nature,
But
he
hold on,
never would.
Liam,
No, no.
hold on. Considering
You're trying
that,
to you're trying to make the
there's
whole.
no reason for Him not to do it. There's also no
No,
reason for Him not to do it to little kids either,
no,
because
but no,
it
Tribulate.
wouldn't
Look,
be
wait,
wrong.
Tribulate. Sexual molestation is wrong.
I
Okay,
believe that, but what we're talking about, but God gets
because,
to do it.
but I'm saying, but
But
God, in
Liam,
God's very nature, He wouldn't do it because it's wrong. It's wrong because God wouldn't do it. That's actually like what I'm doing there. So I know
but if God did it,
the whole
it
trap
wouldn't
was
be wrong.
the whole trap was does God get to determine that something is evil, so it's arbitrary, or is he held to a high standard Himself?
That's not
And
my
I'm
trap.
saying,
That's not my trap.
fair enough, but I'm saying in God's very nature, sexual molestation is evil
I'm not giving
because
you
He
the
would never do it. I'm just saying, like he wouldn't do it. So you again, like now you're talking. It's a nonsense scenario where
It's
God
not
would
a
sexually
nonsense
molest you.
scenario because
It's like
no,
it's like a square circle. Two
no,
plus two equals five.
it's not a nonsense.
God
It is
wouldn't
not.
sexually molest you. God wouldn't sexually molest you.
Liam, Liam. The point that I'm making is, if you say that God gets to do whatever He wants, and it's moral because He's the guy who created me, then He gets to do whatever He wants, including He can touch me. He can touch
Okay,
little children. He made the children.
Tribulate, you
He
are
can
not
kill children.
listening.
He can kill
No,
children. He can't
you're
touch.
You're sneaking in like another
I'm not
thing
sneaking
here.
in, Liam.
No, he can't. Tribulate.
Okay.
He
Let me can I clarify
he.
this? Can I clarify
It's
this?
almost like this.
God can do anything he wants to me except for sexual things.
No, he can do anything that he wants to except sinful things because he's not like there's no sin in him.
Liam, if God did it, it wouldn't be sinful.
Tribulate. God wouldn't do it because in his nature he wouldn't do it.
Liam, here's the problem. Because
Tribulate. Here's the problem.
You're
trying to redefine.
No, you're defining sin by God. You're using God to define it. So if God does it, then it's not sin, which means that there's no reason why God wouldn't do it. Because he wouldn't be sinning even if he did it.
Tribulate. He wouldn't do it because it is sinful. Why is it sinful? Because he wouldn't do it.
Okay.
I think I've answered the question.
Okay. I could just say he would do it because it's good. Because it's good because he would do it.
Hey, there's been a lot. I'm sure that there's some people would say there's been lots of word salad already with what we've been discussing. But I'm saying no. We look at the God revealed in the Old Testament. I know. But I'm just saying, looking at the God revealed in the Old Testament, where I'm just saying, like sexual molestation is in God's very nature. It's what he wouldn't do. Therefore, it's evil to do it.
God kills kids, so he kills them, but he wouldn't molest them.
He kills them, but he doesn't murder them.
I didn't ask about murder.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I'm asking about killing specifically.
I don't think that it's wrong for
God
to
kill, but he won't molest them.
Guys, I don't think that taking a life is for. I don't think God taking a life is not sinful. Molesting children is sinful.
Even if God did it, it would still be sinful.
But it wouldn't. God could.
Hold on. Hold on. I'm not asking if God would do it. What I'm asking, would it still be sinful even if God did it?
It would still be sin. No, well, God wouldn't do it. I like this. This is what I'm trying to get to.
That's not the question that I'm asking.
But no. But it's
Liam. I wouldn't do that to a kid either. But if you ask me, but if you ask me, would it be sinful or more immoral if I did do it? The answer is yes. Okay?
Yes, because
so would I do it, and would it be moral if I did it? Are two different questions. Okay, I'm asking the latter. If God did it, would it be moral? I'm not asking if he do it. I'm asking.
And I'm doubling down here, Tribulate. God would not do it because molestation, in the very nature of God, is something that God would never do.
Okay, so
that's why it's wrong. That's why it's wrong. That's why it's wrong.
Okay, the problem is, so if you're just going to define it by what God does, then if God did it, then now all of a sudden it's good.
No, so this is basically like you're trying to repackage. You're trying to repackage the Eutro dilemma, but I'm just saying, no, because in God's very nature,
you're not answering the Eutro dilemma. Like you're not answering it because instead you're just saying he wouldn't do it.
This is actually Plato already did that. In God's very nature, the reason that molestation is evil is because in God's nature he would never do it. So to do it is evil because it goes against God's nature. Okay. That's what I said already at the beginning of everything.
It's not in my nature either, but it would still be wrong if I did it.
Yes.
Okay. So all right.
Because now, I mean, humans, our actions and everything have to, align with God's nature.
So all right. So now, if God did it, it works differently because we're defining good and bad by his nature. So if it was in his nature, it would then be good. So all God has to do is just have it in his nature and it's good. And he get to maintain his holiness. He still wouldn't be sinning, not by your definition.
But the reason, our whole definition, our whole idea somewhere along the line of what is good and what is evil traces its source back to the nature of God. I know for me, the whole thing is when I hear atheists trying to talk about what we should be doing and believing that there is good and evil, I think that's a backhanded admission that there is a moral lawgiver from whose nature the laws actually flow. But anyway, I know you're not convinced by that. I know, but I'm just saying this is why it's like saying, well, there's a square circle. Can God make a square circle? Is there a square circle? It's like, I'm saying no. A square circle is like a contradiction, or
So
a
let me
square
try this.
triangle.
Let me try this. Let's say my moral system is whatever Tribulette does. Whatever
So have I
Tribulette
been
does.
mispronounced? So Tribulette, have I been mispronouncing your
No.
name for
So
like the
okay,
last 2
so
years?
no. You've been pronouncing it right. The problem is when I say AAA, a lot of people keep saying triple A, right? Like right, and they
like the
say, "Hey, say
battery.
triple A." You're right, yeah. So I just say that even though the
Tribulette.
word
Okay.
is on the
Okay.
screen, so I've like in my head.
Okay.
But
Okay.
no, it's
Okay.
the French word. You said it.
Yeah.
You said it correct.
Yeah. No. Okay. Hundreds. There
All right.
was okay. One joke before you make your point. I don't know if you
Mhm.
know. Do you know Stephen Wright, the comedian?
No.
Dude, looking up, he's a very dry, like one-liners. Sponges growing in the ocean that kills me. Imagine how much deeper the ocean would be if that didn't happen. But the one time he was asked, like, what's the darkest? He said he was at his grandfather's funeral,
Mm-hmm.
and he was looking at him in the casket, and he wondered if he turned him around, would he work? If he had, because the whole thing about the battery, like with the AAA, I just remembered this. I saw that recently, like this week, on one of the shorts that come up. But like he says, that's the darkest thing I ever thought about. Like my grandfather's lying there, and I'm wondering if I just turn him around, would he work now? If he'd
like
gone in the other way.
wind them up.
anyway, yeah. Anyway, he's worth checking out if you're into very dry, human, a bit absurd stuff. Okay. So back to that was a bit of an aside there.
So
Okay, so
let's say like I have a new moral system now. Morality is that which contributes is that which coincides with the nature of AAA, right?
mhm.
My nature, whatever it goes with my nature, that's good. Now, if child molestation was in my nature, what have I just said?
You're trying to do the whole syllogism. So like now, what is it?
If child,
Molestation is good.
it
Molestation is
would
good
be
to
good,
tribulate.
right? So,
However,
but here's the thing. I still get to be good because we define good by me. So whatever I do is going to be by definition good. So you don't get to say that I would never do that to kids because that would be bad. No, it would be good. To call it bad would be the contradiction. If we call it good, you have a perfectly functional system. There is no contradictions. This is where I was getting to with God. If we just call it good, then God is still good because we're defining good by him.
yes, as I said, however, God's eternal, unchanging nature means that even before he created the universe, molestation was going to be bad because it wasn't in his nature to do it. It's like
So
actually, it's evil to do it.
I'm not convinced of that because
I
God
know,
doesn't
I
say,
know, I
well,
know.
no, the Bible doesn't say anything about child molestation. And then there are places in the Bible, like I think where Moses, when he deals with is it the Amalekites? When he says kill
Your
all the
Canaanites.
no, I think it was not the Canaanites yet, but it was before he goes into the land of Canaan. He conquers some people that were somewhere on the Sinai Peninsula, and he says, "Kill all the men and the little boys and every woman that's been with a man. Save the virgins for yourselves." And they do that. And you know what God does? Absolutely nothing. They're like he doesn't condemn in any way. He killed the guy a few chapters ago for picking up some sticks, but they do this, and God is perfectly silent. And not only that, nowhere in the Bible does it condemn child molestation. Not at all. Was just why was God unaware of it? It's not like it wasn't happening back then. God is completely silent on the matter. But not only is God silent on the molestation of children and the abuse of children, but we also know that this God went around actively killing them, not just one or two, but tens of thousands. So we know that killing children is well within the confines of his nature. So I don't see how you could say that someone who killed children and someone who failed to call out the sexual abuse of children wouldn't also do it himself.
Do you know why the Amalekites and Canaanites and all of that were actually judged the way they were judged? Is because of their
They're evil. Right.
deviant sexual practices, and the sacrifice of children.
So, and God fixed it by killing everybody, and then sexually abusing the children. I mean,
where was the where was the sexual abuse of children?
He said, save the virgins for yourselves.
You know that if you took any of those women, you had to marry them, and they were given like a month to mourn.
That doesn't change
passing.
anything. You can marry a 2-year-old. That doesn't change anything. That is evil. You marry a kid, that doesn't give you the right to do anything. That is evil.
No,
marriage doesn't solve any of that. The problem is the kid is a kid, cannot consent to that. Marriage doesn't resolve that.
They said, it actually says, if you see a virgin that like if there's a woman that you want to take, you give her a month to mourn. And then commentators have said that gives the chance for them to decide whether or not to, actually do this thing. And they said, if you do decide to marry this woman, you have to treat her as she's not less, she's your wife. Like actually joined for life. You actually have to take care of her and
you
love
don't
her.
get to do
You
that.
know what I'm saying?
Okay, but that's not okay for babies. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, if
that's
you read
not okay for baby. You don't get you don't get to treat a baby as your wife. No, a baby's a baby. A baby girl is not a wife. I'm sorry.
Babies
you don't get sexual rights over babies. I'm sorry.
No. Babies were not married. Babies were not married off. It was about
save the virgins for yourself.
It was age.
Okay. You have in Amalekite, you have a baby Amalekite girl. Is she a virgin?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay,
yeah, but
there's no caveats here. It doesn't say, hey, God to say, hey, at a certain age you're allowed to do it. He doesn't say that. And we know child marriages were common back in that time. That was happening. It was a thing, and God doesn't say anything about it.
I think, again, I mean, you seem to be reading a lot of the stuff in there.
I'm not reading that into it. It says save the virgins for yourself.
Tribulate. Yes, but it was of age. I mean, if you just look at the whole thing here, it wasn't.
That's wrong. The text doesn't say. You could go look this up. That is wrong. It doesn't say with age. That's the thing I was pointing to. Only thing that matters is if they're a virgin.
Okay, here's
and
the thing about
20-year-old virgin and babies are both virgins. Both fit into that category.
But in ancient Near Eastern, the way it works in Western culture, I think we're coming more from the Greco-Roman. If it's not illegal, it's legal. You understand? Whereas in ancient Near Eastern formulations of law, it was more about the principle. For example, you weren't allowed to abuse your it says that if and I know that slavery is a whole other can of worms you could look at.
I want to say the principles are all messed up because they went around killing people. They genocided the people. So we talk about principles here. They kill everybody except for the virgins. So obviously they don't have good principles here.
No, but Tribulate, what I'm trying to say is, if you like it says, you're not like if you blind your servant, I mean, if you blind your slave, you must free them. If you knock out their tooth, you must free them. Now, in Western society, we'd be like, oh, so then I can cut off their foot, or I can take their pinky. But in ancient Near Eastern, like, they would understand, no, let's look at the principle. It means I can't do permanent damage.
Yeah, like
to these people.
You said servant slave. Okay? Like if you destroy your servant, your slave's eye.
Like I just said, I said it's like those are the two specifics given to give the general principle that you couldn't, like, if you abuse, you have to let go. And
what I'm saying it's already, but what I'm saying it's already problematic because we're having slaves. It's not good to say to have a law. You let your slave go if you destroy his eye. Why do you have slaves? That says a lot about your moral principles already.
But Tribulate, it's only in the last 200 years that anyone has thought that slavery is wrong. We're living in a very weird time in history. Like, slavery existed everywhere. It was ubiquitous. And I'm saying the first document in human history to treat slaves as persons was actually the Old Testament, the Torah. They weren't just property. Like, if you look at the law code of Hammurabi and everything,
so hold on, because we're looking at Exodus chapter 20.
They were people. Tribulate, what I'm saying is, they were people before property. Tribulate,
there were not.
They were people before property.
So let's let's look this up real quick.
Tribulate. I said we can do slavery another time. The point I was trying to make is that
But
you know, like, just because something isn't explicitly outlawed, if you look at the principles of how you're supposed to take care of and all of those things, they would have applied it a bit more broadly. Man, I'm so sorry. Let's schedule a time. Let's actually look at slavery.
okay.
If you want to do like another hour and a half in December.
we can do that, but the verse I was going to look for when it talks about that if you you beat your slave and he recovers in a day, you don't have to like you don't owe him anything because he is your property. That's
Yes.
what the verse says. I think it's
No,
in
no,
Exodus 20 or 21. It says he
Yes.
is your property. So,
Yes, no. I'm Tribulate. Look, what I was saying is, yes, slaves were property, but they were people first. They were persons first. And if you take that, a few verses just before that, or just after that, it says, if you permanently injure them, be it the eye or the tooth, they must be set free. So that already like gives you restrictions on how you can discipline your slave. And look, that I know.
But
Did
you
know
have
that?
slaves. It's like saying it's like saying you can rape somebody, but you have to be gentle. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
you're giving caveats to something that's already bad. You said,
but
the problem is you have slaves in general.
Just like I understand, but the only reason you think that slavery is wrong is thanks to the work of the church that happened over the last like 250
it violates
years.
well-being. It violates well-being. But the work of the church, the people who were freeing slaves, we can save this for another time. Slave talk.
But I'm just saying,
they freed slaves in contradiction to the Bible.
Yeah. No. Again, did you know that kidnapping carried the death penalty in ancient Israel? You weren't allowed to kidnap and sell people.
Yeah,
so again,
you couldn't kidnap a free man, but that's not the only way you could get your slaves. You could purchase your slaves from the heathen nations around you. I'm quoting the Bible. So if you purchase one, you're not kidnapping somebody.
But I'm saying, but you weren't allowed to kidnap, and also if a slave escaped to Israel, you weren't allowed to send them back. Yeah. No. If a slave escaped to Israel, you weren't allowed to send them back. So even foreign slaves were not to be sent back to their masters.
I agree with that. You're using all these defenses that I used to use as a Christian.
Yeah. All I'm saying is, I mean, slavery was ubiquitous. And I just think that if the slave owners had actually read their Bibles, they would have not treated the slaves the way they did. And the Atlantic
they wouldn't have let
them
go.
They
just would have beat them, make sure they recover in a few days afterwards, and not damage their eye, because otherwise they have to let them free.
No, but again, remember, ancient Near East, I can't do permanent damage. But anyway, thanks, man. Sorry, I'm suddenly fading.
It's getting late. Nah, it's past 8:30. I want to thank you for coming on, man. I enjoyed the conversation. It got heated. I know it would. I wanted it to. I love these conversations with you, man. You're one of my favorite guests. Thanks for thanks for coming on the show. If I make it to South Africa one day, and me and the family are thinking about making the trip out there,
we'll definitely
hit you up.
Definitely, man. We'll definitely do I'll go and show you. I'm thinking of, like, I don't know if I could ever do this if I had the time. I actually want to like start a YouTube channel called White Genocide, and I just want to show you. No, but you walk around, it's like, look at this, and like we have just some of the most beautiful things. I take my kids to parks. You know what I mean? Anyway, definitely. If you make it out this way, let's be in touch, eh?
Most definitely, man.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, blessings, man. I can't believe I used to have the stamina. I used to run on like 4 hours sleep a weekend. Now, like, I'm done, man. It's crazy. Okay.
All right. Well, blessings, I appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks for the sacrifice, brother.
God bless. Cheers, man. Have a good one.
Yes, Phantom. I am still checking my email. So if more guests want to come on the show, hit me up. I got a guy that may come on next Tuesday at 7 p.m. We'll see. But yes, I am still checking my email. If you want to come on the show, email us. You can also comment on the video if I see it. Just tag me or whatever, and I'll be like, hey, I'll challenge you to come on the show. So we are. I'm just not, I guess, as committed to the show as I used to be. But if a guest want to come on and have a discussion, have a debate, talk, yeah, man, we could chop it up always. So yes, Phantom, I am still checking my email. Just if you know somebody that want to come on the show, tell them to hit me up. But all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I will catch you all later.